for that great educational opportunity for everybody. I'd like to recognize Racine Cooper, who is our program chair. And she is going to introduce our guest speaker and our councilman here. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Before I introduce the councilman, on the table is a small piece of paper. If you have a question for the councilman, please write it down. There's a pen on the table, or we'll bring the mic around and you can ask it verbally. Let's start with Mr. Joe Dill. Joe represents District 17, was elected in November 1998. He is currently serving his fourth term as councilman for the northern portion of Greenville County. Councilor Dill is a dedicated public servant. Prior to his election to county council, he served 12 years on the Greenville County School Board. While during his tenure, he served as chairman. Everybody, please welcome Councilor Joe Dill. Next, Mr. Lynn Ballard, District 26. Mr. Ballard currently serves as chairman of the Planning and Development Committee and vice president of the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. He is on the board of SHARE. He's been actively involved in the community for many years. He is an active member of Washington Baptist Church in Pelsner, where he serves as a teacher and on the security team. Please welcome Mr. Lynn Ballard. And last but not least, we have our very own Willis Meadows, Vice Chair, District 19. Elected November 2006, Willis Meadows is serving his third term on County Council. He is a longtime resident of District 19. He is an insurance agent and owner of Willis Meadows Insurance. Active in the Republican Party, he is an Inner Reed Precinct Executive Committee man and has been a delegate to the county and state conventions. Councilor Meadows serves as Vice Chairman of the County Council and on the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee. Please welcome Willis Meadows.
Certainly appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you and share with you some of the things that are going on in the county. And what Julie has asked me to do is talk mainly about the Greenville hospital system. And let me say from the offset. Okay. All right. If you can't hear me, raise your hands. Well, I've often thought when people say, "Can you hear me in the back?" If you can't hear, how are you going to know you can't hear? So it is that some of you that are sitting near the back, you might ask them, "Can you hear?" And if you can't, raise your hand when you can't hear, if I move away from the mic. But our topic primarily today will be about the hospital system and what's going on with the hospital system. And I might say in the beginning is my doctors are affiliated and have been bought by the hospital system. I have had surgery at the hospital system. I've had good care at the hospital system. And mainly what we say today is not critical of the workers and the doctors that are in the hospital. Is the ones that really are guiding and leading the hospital are the ones that have put us in some of the, I guess, for lack of a better word, some of the mess that we're in today. Is that, as you probably know, and I might say that I did pass out an outline of pretty much what I'm going to say today. Now, that's always, when I've had teachers, they'd say, "Well, I'm going to pass this out, but don't look at it." I'm not going to tell you that. Is that you look at it, and we pass it out so that if I don't go over some of these things, then you've got some idea of what has gone on in the past. The whole purpose is to give you a bird's eye view of what has happened and how the different events, how they fit together, and perhaps you can see where we're going or where we should be going or where we should not be going. So you use that any way you want to make notes. You want to use that to ask your questions. And if you did not get a copy, if you'll see me afterwards and give me your email address, then I will send that to you. Is that, as you probably know, the hospital system was started back in 1947. There was an act or a bill that was passed in the House that gave the hospital system so he really did it before home rule. So it gave the delegation that ruled and did all the things in the county that are done by county council and some of the local people today was the job of the delegation. And that delegation was responsible for forming the hospital. The hospital board was appointed by that group, and the board was responsible to or I guess you would say they were responsible to the delegation. And so that's how it has been until the last 3 years, is the hospital, and of course we've gotten away from some of that. We got away from the delegation being the home rulers, but they still had the power because this was state law. They had power to still appoint those board members. And this was back in 2016. There was a series of secret meetings that went on. These were meetings that were done at retreats. These were meetings that were done out of town. Some were done here in town. The whole purpose of this was to reorganize the way the hospital worked and who was responsible for what and who had the power to make the decisions and who would lead and really spend the money at the hospital. Is that had it not been for Dale Baker and Louis Baum, we probably wouldn't have known about this until it had already happened. Is that the aim was to not let the delegation know, not to let the public know, or anyone else to know until everything was put into place and it was voted on. Is that at one of the meetings here in town, at the board meeting, they were going to go into executive session to discuss this. And Louis Baum and Dale Baker refused to go into executive session, saying that this is not an executive session thing that we should go into. It is illegal to do, and we're not going to do it. Well, the newspaper was there, and they picked up on this. And this is how the delegation found out about the plans of the hospital and what was going to go on in the hospital. And as you look at the sheet that I've given to you, is that the hospital system as it was set up is that they were going to take the board. Of course, before this was all reorganized, the board controlled everything that the hospital did, controlled it. They appointed everybody and they hired everybody. Is that under the new delegation or under the new organization, there are 3 boards. There's one board, and I don't remember, I think I have it on your sheet. There's a board that is the SCO. That is the one that controls everything. That's where Mike Reardon, he is the chairman and the president of that board. And everything that is done has to go through that board. They make all of the decisions about what to buy, or when we say what to buy, we're talking about what hospitals to buy, what mergers to have, how the money comes in, how it goes out. And then they have another board that is under that is appointed by this board, and that is the UAO board. That is the board that will take care of the finances, and they've been delegated to take care of the finances and, again, move money back and forth where it should go. And then they have a local board, which is the GHS board, that virtually has no power at all. Is that these board members do not have to be in Greenville County. They do not have to be in South Carolina. These board members answer not to the delegation, they only answer to the SOA, is the top board as such. And so this is the way that it was organized, and it was organized so that the hospital system could take the assets that Greenville County has put into it, and the taxpayers of Greenville County has delegated to it. They were going to take, or they were going to take it, they have taken the money that the assets that you own as citizens of Greenville County. Is that when the hospital was first started, Greenville County, through grants and through bonds, put in about $80 million. is that $80 million has grown to over $6 billion. And so if we were to sell the hospital system today, it is estimated that the selling price would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 billion. And so that is what this board is attempting to do now. It would be like if I went into business with a guy, say 40 years ago, and or I just went into business and I put $80,000 into the business. And then the business began to grow, and it grew, and it was worth $1 million or $2 million. And the guy that was working with me as my manager, he retired. So I would bring somebody else in to be the manager and to take over and to do the daily work on it. And then behold, I find out later that the managers decided, we're going to take your business over. And we're going to just take this $1 million business that you started with $80,000, and we're going to run it, and we're going to let you just put your side. But we're going to be very benevolent. We're going to give you that $80,000 back. But we're going to give you that $80,000 back over 20 years. And we're going to give it back to you if we run a surplus. And it's up to our discretion as to when we give it back. If we can't afford it one year, then we won't give it back that year. Also is that when we give the money back, we're going to decide who in your family or who in the community is going to get that money back. We're going to give it back to the community because you've been serving the community. And if you look at what that person did, they gave it to some of their family members that were associated with the business. And see, this is basically what has happened here in our hospital system. And when you read in the paper and see, they try to dress it up, they're going to give us $4 million back each year for 20 years under the same scenario that I just gave you. Is that if you will look at the list that they have printed, most of these organizations that they're giving money to are organizations that are associated with the hospital. It will enhance what the hospital is doing. So in essence, they're giving the money back to themselves in the name of the county. And so that's where we are as far as our assets. There's an attempt to take $6 billion from you because you own it. It's the taxpayers of Greenville County. Is that, and they're saying, well, we don't take any tax money now. No, they don't. But they also enjoy the bond, having been able to float bonds and do other things and use the name of Greenville County and the Greenville County bond rating in order to float their bonds and to get their money. So they're using that from the assets. Now, the other thing is that once this happened, then the delegation decided that they would sue the hospital system and sue and ask for an injunction. And they went to the Supreme Court, and I think at the same time the hospital sued Louis Baum, and I don't know whether they sued Dale Baker. They were trying to get before a judge that would make a quick decision and rule in their favor. And I don't know that they counted on it, whether they thought that the delegation would just roll over and play dead, but it didn't. Is that the Supreme Court would not take the case. And what the Supreme Court said, they didn't rule on whether it was good or bad. What they said is that we won't look at it until it goes to a lower court. And in that lower court, when they rule, then if it is appealed, then we will eventually get a ruling. Unfortunately, the hospital system has tried to make you, as a taxpayer, believe that the Supreme Court's already ruled because they ruled that they wouldn't take it. They also would like to make you believe that the Attorney General has ruled that what they have done is legal. That's not true either. If you read it, the Attorney General says the only way to know whether this is legal and it has been done legally is to go through the court system. So this is where we are now, is that through the court system. Is the interesting thing too, is that during all this time, how much have you heard about what I just told you? How much have you heard about what has happened with the hospital system in the delegation? There has been a news blackout, pretty much, in Greenville County. Is that the newspapers have their radio stations that if you call in and the talk shows and you ask about, speaking about the hospital system and what's going on, they won't let you on. Is that there's very little news as far as the TV is concerned. The question is why, and the question is who is behind all of this, and what are the motives on all of this? Is that the thing with any of these, any time that you have two sides that are trying to get their points out, as long as you can keep people in the dark, and as long as they don't know what's going on, then you can pretty much do anything that you want to. But that's a thing that I don't know the answer to that, and that's only surmising. I can't really tell you that this is really anybody behind it. But what the effort is, and as you probably know, there has been some publicity on the merger of Palmetto Hospital, which is down in Columbia, Richland, and they also have a hospital over in Sumter. The one in Sumter is the one that got in trouble with with Medicaid and the false claims that they made, and they had a fine of several $1 million. Now, these two hospitals in the lower part of the state have a tremendous debt, over $800 million that they owe. But when they bought this, is that it meant that with those hospitals, you have Oconee Hospital, you have one in Easley, the old Easley Baptist Hospital, you have the Lawrence Hospital, you have all the hospitals here in Greenville County. There are 13 hospitals that are involved here. There are 1.2 million patients that are served each year. 50% of all South Carolina residents live within 15 minutes of one of these hospitals. Has had. You think about the impact and think about the influence that they would have. 50% of all the Medicaid patients are serviced by these hospitals. They have over 28,000 workers. They have bought over 150 doctor practices. They take in over $3.9 billion a year. Is that when you look at the whole landscape and the scope, they are the dominant people here. They have a monopolistic influence. And when you have a monopoly, you can do pretty much what you want. You can set the rates, you can set the benefits, and this is where we're headed if all of this goes through.
Yep.
Is that now the latest thing is to bring you up to date is that, and this is what you saw a good bit, and we did have a good bit of news coverage on this, is something that is called the Jetta bonds. Is that the hospital had told, as we had been told, that they told Richland County, we'll take care of your debt. And so in order to do that, is that they wanted to borrow $1.5 billion, and they wanted to consolidate all the debt, so that the debt that Richland County had, Sumter County had, Oconee County had, would be merged with Greenville County, which was a smaller amount of debt. And now what they would tell you is that you're not on the hook for this, is that these are revenue bonds. So it's only money that we make in the hospital that will pay this off. Well, who's going to the hospital? If you go to the hospital and you're a taxpayer, then does it not affect the taxpayers that are here? Is so that when they did this, then they had to have permission from Greenville County, because the hospitals are in Greenville County. They had to have permission from the council in Oconee County. They also had to have permission in Sumter County and Richland County. Now, the two hospital systems, or the two county councils that voted for this, one was in Richland, one was in Sumter. Doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out. Is I owe all this money. If you're going to take my debt and help me get it paid for, yeah, I'm going to vote for it. Is that Oconee County? What they first did is they put it on hold and said, we'll just hold it. And then they came back a week later and they voted 5-0. No, we do not want to do this. Now, the Greenville County Council is that we voted to hold it until all the litigation had gone through all the steps. Is our position on Greenville County Council is that we want to know, is it legal? And what are the parameters that we're in before we will support this? And I would like to say that 2 of my colleagues that are here voted no, along with me, also with Enos Fant and Rick Barnes. Those that voted no, voted yes and for it were Butch Kervin, Santine Norris, Fred Payne, Liz Seaman, and Bob Taylor. Is that as a result of this, the hospital system sort of backed off a little bit, we thought. But then they went to Henry McMaster, the governor, because the governor has to also sign off. And whether we sign off or not, he can sign off, and if he does, then the bond company and the bond salesman are going to look a lot more faithful to it. And so then they asked Governor McMaster, would you approve this? And say yes. And the letter that came back from him, he listed all the reasons that it was good and all the reasons that it might be good in the future. But his last paragraph was, I cannot approve this because it has not been passed by the Greenville County Council and the Oconee Council, and the litigation should go through the courts so we'll know whether this is legal or not. So that's where the bonds, so right now, is that they are not trying to sell Jetta bonds. Jetta bonds come from the state and is money that's funneled through the state on that. Is the other thing that happened during this time is, and this was in the last legislative thing in Columbia, is that the Senate did vote on a resolution that said what the hospital system did was in violation of Act 432, which is the act in 1947 that started the hospital system. Is that that was passed in the Senate, it was not passed in the House. And it wasn't passed in the House because they couldn't get unanimous consent to vote. And that was held up by Mr. Bannister. Bill Bannister, who is a representative here, might be one of your representatives. But he was the one, is because he said, no, we can't vote on this. He wouldn't give unanimous consent. It did not pass that. Now, just this year, is on January 9th, there was a bill that was put into the hopper in the House. And this was sponsored by Bill Bannister. It was Bruce Bannister, Eric Bedingfield, Dan Hamilton, Phyllis Henderson, Chandler Dillard, Joshua Putman, and Jason Elliott. And this was to make it a law, an ordinance from the State House, the Senate, or this was the State House, and then it would be sent to the Senate, that what had been, and it was retroactive, is what the hospital has done would be legal. And all the actions that they had taken prior to this time would be legal. Now, I think that this created a great deal of emails, great many calls that went to the State House, and 2 days later, everybody took their name off except 3 people: Bruce Bannister, Dillard, and Eric Bedingfield. Is that very good? Is they? That's my timer telling me I'm finished here, and I'm almost finished. Now, as far as the status of the litigation, and this will be my last point, and then I'm going to, all the hard questions you can direct to my experts that are part with me today, is that the status of the litigation today is that a judge has not been appointed to hear this case. The case has not been, it has not been set as a trial date. Nothing has been set on this. And each time that there's an effort to do any of this, the hospital has a reason not to. And there's been a pushback, and there seems to be a dragging of the feet of saying, hey, let's not do anything at all. And then just yesterday is that the hospital board is they have given the new board or the new cabinet, and you'll probably see that in the day's paper because it was a press release that came out last night, is that they have listed all of the people that are on the new board that's going to take care of Palmetto and the GHS hospital here in South Carolina. You know, the interesting thing is that I had a doctor that called me after the Jettabon vote, and he said, Willis, I want to tell you that we appreciate what you and the others that voted against this are doing, and that I am a doctor and I am against what's going on here, is that what is going on will only help about 10 or 15 people. They are the ones that are going to reap the real benefits. So the workers and the doctors are not going to reap the benefits of any of this money. Is that in some ways the doctors and the workers have lost a lot of their time because they've been bought up. They do not have, if they don't agree to joining one of the hospitals, they don't have anywhere to send their patients. They don't get any referrals. So this is the status of where we are now. And I'll just stop here and say, if there are any questions, what's the deal? Mr. Ballard.